I'm putting out my first mock draft today, or I did put out my first mock draft today, and leaving the NFL Combine, I got to say, I'm not 100% convinced in this. I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are probably pointing one of three ways, but I don't know that the board is going to shake out in their favor. My first round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Broderick Jones' teammate, Georgia offensive tackle Amarius Mims, obviously out of Georgia, with the 20th pick. They don't have to move to get him. My thoughts here before we dive into Mims as a whole is just quite simply, I don't know if a corner is going to be there. I don't know if Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be worth it at 20 over some of these guys that are available. Quinion Mitchell, there's no chance he's getting to 20. I don't think Nate Wiggins makes it to 20. No way Arnold makes it to 20. It just seems like it's a very narrow path for the Pittsburgh Steelers to get one of these top guys. And if they don't get one of these top guys, I'm not sure that you stick around and just kind of grab a corner because you need a corner. My other thought there is everybody's talking about wide receivers. I think that may be on the table. But if I had to guess, right now, the way the board is going to shape out, Amarius Mims just makes so much sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right tackle, played at Georgia. The Steelers love Georgia guys. Big body, ready to go. I think if he played more in his career, he dealt with some injuries, didn't really play a lot at Georgia. He's probably a top 15 pick. Because of that, he might slide to 20. And I think the Steelers are going to look at him and say, this dude fits our path or our offense perfectly.
Yeah, I'll admit, I don't think this is the flashiest name that we've talked about at that number 20 spot. It is not, I think, what everyone dreams about. I think people had been talking themselves into Quinion Mitchell, into Jackson Powers Johnson, into, a Kool-Aid McKinstry, guys like that. So this might seem a little bit underwhelming, but I think it's a good move nonetheless.
Yeah.
It's a position of need. It's a talented player there. You don't have to move to get him. That's the thing about, maybe one of those corners, or like you mentioned, maybe a big time wide receiver in a good class. You'd have to move up to get someone, I think, who can really make a big impact right away. Mims seems like someone that you could bring in. And as much as I think Dan Moore is pretty solid for the most part, they didn't upgrade there.
Yes.
And this could potentially be that. You got to use premium picks to get premium players, and this would be a step in that direction. And I think it also, Dan Moore provides you some cover like it did for Broderick to develop this guy, bring him on maybe a little bit slowly. We don't have to immediately peg him as a starter and say, look, this is all on you to protect our franchise quarterback and whoever that may be. And get us into a new gear as an excuse me, get us into a new gear as an offense. So I think that makes a ton of sense, even though it's maybe not the most exciting thing that we've talked about that the Steelers could use with that first draft pick.
Yeah, I agree. There's flash and there's obvious flash, but the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't make flash last year, and it turned out really well. Like everybody was talking about Christian Gonzalez, all these guys, Joey Porter Jr. even at 17 originally, and then they ended up trading up to get a Broderick Jones. And this year, I think that they could look at it and say, we have options. I think corner is really high on their board. I'm not going to say corner is not a first-round option for them. I just don't know if it's going to shake out the way that they want it to shake out. And honestly, my worry there is if it doesn't shake out that way, if they aren't able to get a first-round corner, where do they get a corner? Like, how deep do you go? Because in the second round, you're looking at potential centers. You're looking at wide receivers. You're not looking at, the Kool-Aid McKinstries. Those guys are gone. You're looking at the Kalen Kings at that point. And yeah, that's a good option, but I think that they're more interested in waiting it out and seeing maybe a Max Milton of Rutgers to play the slot and have him as an option, and then go and get a veteran guy in free agency or through a trade. That's definitely on the board. I just think right tackle, the way that it shapes off, like J.C. Latham and Amarius Mims are just two guys that play right tackle naturally. That's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. They don't have to worry about Broderick Jones anymore. They can move it over. If they get a center like Brian Allen, and I've been, we've talked about this more than once. Brian Allen is high on their board. I've been told that. That's their offensive line. Like it looks pretty good, and they got 2, 3, depending on how you look at James Daniels, very young guys that they could build around. I think that fits exactly what they're going for. I think it fits the Arthur Smith's play style of this is going to be a running football team. I think it helps Kenny Pickett a ton, or whoever the quarterback is. I just think that's the way to go.